What's up, good people? This is Coach Trey. We're having a conversation with Mr. Dale Collins on this episode of I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through, titled My Life Matters. Mr. Collins, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Well, thank you, Sister Ashley. I appreciate you having me. I'm just glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Now, you've been in law enforcement for several years and you made an oath. You took an oath, rather, to protect and serve. And I know with you taking that oath, you took that very seriously.
Yes.
But I know also in one point of your life, there was something that happened to you. And I think that changed the trajectory of your life. And that people need to know what that story is when you had an encounter with law enforcement.
I was on my way home from work. I was a computer specialist at First American Bank, downtown Nashville. And I was on my way over to my mother-in-law's to-be house to drop some money off. She had asked me to give her a couple of dollars. It was on a Thursday evening, so she get paid the next day, which was Friday, and she would give it back to me. But to make a long story short, in that process, Jefferson Street is a street that runs directly from Tennessee State, Meharry, and Fisk University. And it's about like Candler Road, if you know Candler Road. It's just a long, straight street. And you can see from one end almost to the other, but as far as you can see, it's just flat land. And so when I turned on Jefferson Street off of 4th, I saw a car stalled out in the middle of the street. And it was right there in front of the Burger King. So every car that was in front of me and behind me kind of went around the car, went back over and kept going. Mm-hmm. Because, it's the common nature that if you do a driving test, I don't know in other states, but in Georgia, a 3-lane thoroughfare, normally the middle lane is emergency passing or a turning lane, so you impede the flow of traffic.
Right.
I didn't think anything about it, so every car in front of me, I did the same thing, went on up the street. And mind you, I saw the police officers stopping traffic about a good mile up the street. Mm-hmm. This was a church that my church fellowship with, one of the sister churches. I didn't think no more about it. And sure enough, I got up there to the police officers, going around the car and got by the police officers. And all of a sudden, he told me to stop, so I stopped, and then he let the people come across the street. And so I was waving at people because I knew some of them. Matter of fact, my co-worker, Wayne Gardner, works right next to me. That was his mom was the first one that came across the street. Wow. Hey, Dale, you gonna come? Yeah, I might, because they know we fellowship together. Mm-hmm. So at that point, the police officer came over when he let the people cross the street. The parking lot was adjacent across the street from the church. So he came over to my car and said, "You know what solid yellow line means?" I said, "Oh, yes sir, it means no passing." Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at him like, okay, well, what's he talking about? I'm like, you gotta be crazy not to look at that line. I'm saying this to myself. Right. Because by me being raised the way I was raised, you don't talk back to police officers. Early 70s, 80s, mm-hmm. That's just something out of respect. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think no more about it. So he went back to the car, and the back of the car started writing me a ticket. And I'm looking like, well, what's the ticket for? So when he came back to the car, he said, "You need to sign right here." I said, "Okay, officer," I'm not gonna say his name, but I said, "Officer, what's the ticket for?" "Oh, you got a bad nigga." And he hit me on my arm because my arm was up on the steering wheel, and you know how you elbow on the windshield, on the door panel. And I said, "Oh no, I just want to know what the ticket was for." And by that time, he done got the customer, told me to get out the car. So I got to say, "Hey, I'm not gonna give you any problem. I'll be more than happy to get out the car. I just want to know what the ticket for." And by that time, when I got trying to open the door and get out the car, he grabbed me, started choking me, and then another cop pulled up, and this white cop. This guy was black. Mm-hmm. But another cop officer pulled up, and he slid around like Starsky and Hutch, jumped out of the car. "Oh, you got one of these bad niggas," and these guys literally beat me to the ground. Wow. And everybody was hollering and screaming, the other people coming. I said, just don't let them kill me. That's all I could think. And sure enough, the guys locked me up, put me in the hospital for a couple of days. I think about 3 or 4 days. And beat me up pretty good, beat me up real good. So finally, when all my records got pulled, they realized that I was a police officer. But I just got sworn I had been through the police academy, so they decided to want to allow me to sign my own bond. And the crazy thing about the whole situation was, at that point, he didn't have an initial charge because when you look at that line was a dotted line on both sides. Emergency passing and turn lane. So anytime you lock somebody up, you got to have an initial charge. He charged me with resisting arrest.
Okay.
You can't charge anybody, Montre, with this resisting arrest unless you have an initial charge. It's got to be an initial charge.
Right.
And so sure enough, and back up again, my fiance at the time, her brother was a cop in Metro Police Department, that's the name of it, for about 12 years. And he came over my house, and we wasn't real cool, we wasn't talking all the time. But he came over my house for about 2 months, periodically, to ask me not to press charges against these guys. And by me being a young guy at that point and not knowing a whole lot about law as far as pressing charges on people, not having money to get a lawyer, and not being in any trouble in my whole life at that point to really know anything about the law enforcement system. You know, I was kind of green to that. And he sure did. He came over the house and told me all the time, hey, if you press charges against these guys, they'll probably try to do something to you. When I went to court, the people in court, the judge threw the whole case out. He got very upset. He was very upset because of the nature of the scope of the whole situation. Exactly. And all the racial violence going on. And he got up on the bench and hit the gavel 2 or 3 times. I want to know what the blanket initial charge. First time I ever heard a judge cuss in the courtroom. Wow. I want to know what the initial charge was. And you can't charge anybody with resisting arrest. He just went on and on. He fined them about, I think, a couple of $1,000. If I'm not, my recollection not explicitly clear, but he fined them, and then they got suspended for like a couple of weeks. But to make a long story short, after then, they ended up going to prison about 4 months after that for racketeering and extortion, along with 12 more other guys.
Well, that's interesting. You know, sometimes there's a reason behind. I know you didn't want to be, you know, that person to be an example, but God has a way of exposing things. So how would you say that impacted or influenced your decision in going ahead and proceeding with becoming a police officer?
It impacted a great deal because that feeling and to be dealt with in that manner unjustly made me feel that if I could do something to help somebody and to show somebody that all cops are not bad, and if you put me in that position to do the right thing, to let my legacy be of one that somebody can always come by and say, hey man, that's a good guy right there.
Right.
You know, all cops ain't bad. I know I can't save everybody. I'm not trying to save everybody, but I do want people to know when they meet me, they met a good person. Yeah. They met a God-fearing man who's gonna do the right thing, regardless of the circumstances. Still gonna do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And that's what made me want to be a cop. You know, and that's why I ran for sheriff, because God had allowed me to be in such a position in DeKalb County where I grew up. And normally guys don't like being in that position because they don't like working where they grew up because they know so many people.
Absolutely.
And by me being a good athlete, I knew people from all sides of towns, and working in DeKalb County, he had allowed me to work in an area to every day, Montre, if you committed any kind of crime whatsoever, you had to come through me, because I'm the one that had to transport you back and forth to court every day. And I was over the transport team. Right. So every day, Collins, hey Dale, nickname, booty head, you know, all that kind of stuff. Guys had my nickname, and people like, man, you know him. Right. Yeah, man, I grew up here, you know.
Right. Did you ever think twice about, you know, going into law enforcement, or maybe going in a different direction? Let me be a lawyer so I can be the ones who prosecute these type of people, or, you know, what made you just continue on? Or did you just ever say, okay, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to do it?
That's what I said. That's what I said. After that situation, then the Rodney King situation, and that was more of a determination for me to stay right there. Because I know when I first started, the first thing my mom said, well, baby, I can't give you no blessing because I don't want you to die. I said, Mom, so you can get killed. She went on and on. I said, you know something, Mom? I said, if I walk in the house right now and walk out the street and get in that car, somebody can run over me and kill me right there.
Well, you got a point there.
I said, at least one thing I would know. I'll know how to handle myself and what to do and what not to do. Right. And she said, well, since you said it like that, and that was it. Never said anything else.
So do you have any animosity in your heart towards those individuals?
You know, I don't. I'm going to be honest, I had a lot of animosity for a long time, my friend.
How did you get over that?
By getting closer to God, and God showing me, you know, so many times when things happen at work and It might be me growing up in Kirkwood, Summerhill, places like that. You know, sometimes you had to fight growing up in some areas. And I'm the first one, put your hand on me now, you're gonna pay the price. I believe in that. And I'm not gonna abuse you, but you're gonna pay the price. Either I'm gonna whoop you or you're gonna whoop me, one of the two.
Right.
But it made me realize that when you treat people right and do the right thing, that God has your back. And after that, I didn't worry about it anymore. It didn't even faze me anymore. I stuck with it, and I was happy with it. I mean, even in the jail, all aspects of it, I can see guys right now who God has allowed me to say some things to them, you know, to change their life and make them realize what was important in families and things like that. And I see them all the time, and it just does my heart good to know that I was where God wanted me to be.
Right.
If I had decided anything else, I might have messed up.
Yeah, it made that difference.
And that animosity slowly but surely went away. One incident was very profound with me that made me realize that he had me in the right place. As a guy, I was in the court division years ago, and a guy, I was in civil, I had been transferred to civil processing section. And I had a nice court session in Judge Weeks' courtroom, to where a guy had took this girl in, and he was dating, he was driving tractor trailer on a tractor trailer company. He was driving tractor trailer, and he was out of town, and she was on the street, and he pulled off the street, helped her out, let her have keys, everything. She had everything she wanted, but she started fooling around on him when he was out of town. The next door neighbor told on him.
Oh, wow.
He stayed at home when they accidentally said he was going out of town, but he was at home that day. Came home, met him, and almost killed both of them. And she called the police. Police came over. They locked him up. He went upstairs. I transported him back and forth to court. He ended up having to leave his house because she took out a restraining order. Now it's his house. And he brought her in. And she ended up taking out a restraining order. Judge signed a restraining order, and he had to go stay at another place for about a month and a half until the actual court hearing and everything came through. And before that, and what I'm getting to is before that, he came downstairs, had to serve him the warrant, and he said he was going home to kill her. And I sat there and talked to the guy for about an hour in my office. And sure enough, I said, man, whatever you do, it's not worth it. I said, you know, and I had a long talk with him, but make a long story short, and to the point, Montre, about a year later, that guy came and found me in field division. Questioned some people about me and found because I had left the court division, came to field division, found me and told the secretary at the headquarters is there any way I can see him or call him to the office. So sure enough, they called me and I drove to the office, got out, walked up. I didn't know what was going on. And then when I got to the door, and I looked, now I don't forget a face. I said, hey man. And he said, Sergeant Collins, I just wanted to tell you thank you. He said, I've been trying to find you, man. After everything, my life's better. He said, I just wanted to tell you thank you. Because if you hadn't talked to me, I would probably be in prison for the rest of my life. Because I would have gone home, I was going to kill him. He said, out of all that, and I said, man, it is, believe me. You know, I said, nobody but the Lord. And I said, Lord told me to talk to you. And I said, I just wouldn't let you go. You know, I wouldn't give him his keys, I wouldn't give him nothing.
Right.
But that let me know then, and this been about 25 years ago, that I was in the right, I was what God wanted me to be.
What advice would you give to other people that look like us? Because it's not just males that experience the brutality and the unfair treatment. It is now our females. So what advice would you give someone who's experienced, who's gone through what you've gone through, who has the anger and the bitterness and the hate, you know, for them going through what they went through? What advice would you give that individual to help them to get through what they've gone through to get to a place of peace?
That's a strong question, Montre, and I hope God will lead me to say this the right way. A lot of people will look at it and say, all he's talking about is God. Well, that's one thing that sometimes that a lot of people don't understand at this point, especially in our field. You have to know where your help comes from. If you don't know where your help comes from, you're going to stay out there on that island of Mount Patmos for a long time and not come in. You're going to keep on missing those boats coming by. You're going to keep doing that. But when you realize where your help comes from and ask God, first of all, to get deep down in your spirit and let him come in and move some of that mess out of the way. You know, that's when you can grow. Because that's the only thing that helped me. Because I carried that for a while.
Right.
I carried that hatred for a while. If I had saw that guy on the street, I know I would be dead or in prison right now. Because I wouldn't have stopped until he wasn't breathing anymore. Because that's just the magnitude of the hatred that I had for him. Because he just, how can I say, he
stripped you of your dignity.
He stripped me. He in front of everybody.
Right.
You know, for no reason. And he was very adamant about it, both of them. To where if I had saw him, it would have been a bad day.
Right.
I mean, from behind, I don't care, side, I would have attacked him and tried to do something to him. But I kept praying, and my mom kept talking to me, and she's one of them old 93-year-old ladies, all she talked about is God, that's all she knows. And that's what saved me.
Right.
That's what changed my heart, that's what saved me.
So what you're saying is, the two things the advice that you would give would be have your support system.
Have a support system.
And prayer.
And prayer. I would. I would. Have a support system and prayer, and most importantly, take ownership of what you do.
Okay.
Don't let anybody sway you to do something that you know is not right.
Right.
Because people can say what they want to say. If you know it's not right, you feel indifferent about it.
Absolutely.
You feel indifferent about it. No, I didn't. No, yes, you did. You know, and my old sayings go, to thine own self be true. Because if you're true to yourself, you know you messed up.
Yes,
you know you was wrong. Oh yeah, it'll show you. As Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror, when you look in the mirror.
If you're open to it.
If you're open to it,
that's right.
It'll show you.
Absolutely.
You know, and it'll train. And my favorite scripture, going back to the last thing, my favorite scripture is Romans 12 chapter, from 1 to all the way to the end. About I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercy of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good, acceptable, and the perfect will of God. That right there, the whole thing, that right there did something to me, because it let me know that if you say you're a child of God,
right,
let God use you. Let you step back there and let God use you. That's why it doesn't bother me when I started with the sheriff's department and other departments. When I do what I know is right, from God's perspective, I don't worry about my supervisors or anybody. And I've had some hellation supervisors who tried to do certain things, and every time they did it, God changed it around.
He flipped the script.
Every time.
He flipped the script.
Every time, Andre.
As a citizen, do I have a right to video you during a traffic violation or, any routine stop that you might, as a police officer?
Yes, you do. You do have a right to video, and then there's nothing that a police officer can do about you doing that. Because I'm gonna tell you, even the most profound thing right now, to where if you notice that every cop, most of the police departments are doing what? Getting body cams. Right. So what's the difference between his body cam and your phone?
Okay.
Nothing. And that's why they're doing that. Because going back to what I said about business and personal, that's why a lot of guys take it personal when you videotape, because you know he's doing something wrong. Well, I never have a problem with somebody videotape me, because I'm going to try to stay in line. Right. If I get out of line, when I got out of line, it was on tape just like it was when I was in line.
Absolutely.
So it's nothing they can do. Nothing they can do about that. The only time you'll see something like that is when guys are doing something wrong and they got an issue with it because they don't want to be seen.
Gotcha.
Because right now, over 95% or 85%, at least 50% of the departments here in the metro, all over the United States, are getting body cams just for that purpose. So how to look for us to, and that's why when guys do not use the body cam, they're in hot seat, because that's what the body cam is for.
That's what they're for.
Unless you're a dirty cop, unless you're trying to hide something.
Right.
But if you're doing it, if you're keeping it like it should be, you got that body cam on. So everything I said to Montreal Edit, it's already on cam.
Absolutely.
I ain't got to worry about nothing.
One last final question. I don't look like what I've been through because
of the grace of God.
Because of the grace of God.
Grace of God.
All right.
That's all I can say. Grace of God. Because if he hadn't been in the picture, I wouldn't be here. And you wouldn't be able to have this interview right here.
Wow.
Because Dale Collins would have tried to do everything I could that I could to not let those guys lock me up or do that. And I know they would have killed me because things I had gone through at that point, and God hadn't dealt with me like He dealt with me now. Now they would have had to kill me.
Oh, but for grace.
They would have had to kill me, Andre. I'm telling you, because I would not have stopped.
Well, there you have it, good people. This has been another segment of Having a Conversation with Coach Trey. I don't look like what I've been through, and I hope you've been blessed. So until next time, when you get to the end of the rope, remember, there is hope.